Hello, everyone. I hope that you can hear me well. Super excited to be here today. Hello, Mike. How are you doing today? Seems your microphone is muted right now. Your microphone. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you. I'm great. Thank you. How are you?
Amazing. Thank you so much. Very good. Okay, so let's begin. I'm going to do a quick intro for Mike here, and then we're going to get started. So it is my pleasure to introduce you to Mike van der Noort. Mike has established himself as a polyvalent creative director and consultant in immersive design solutions. Mike has done more than 20 years of experience as an art director, motion graphic designer, 3D visualizer, teacher, and independent artist. Also, I understand that Mike works in all corners of the media landscape like corporate, cultural events, architecture, broadcasting, branding, museums, exhibitions, online media, and new media arts. There are more accolades that even Mike is going to tell us about himself, and I can't wait to begin. Thank you so much for being here, Mike. Today, we're going to speak today about the camera is the new home page. So, without further ado, I'm going to add the slides for you to get ready.
All right. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Yeah, thank you for having me. And my talk is called "The Camera is the New Homepage." I picked this up in a VR XRAR newsletter, and I thought, that's quite catchy. Some food for thought there, because like augmented reality, virtual reality, XR is like a disruptive technology, right? So the camera in our phone could be the homepage, a new way to communicate and to move around and to express yourself, right? So my talk might be a little bit different than other talks I've seen so far here on the conference. I'm going to take you to a little bit of a personal journey, how I came where I'm now, and intertwined how the technology came where it is now, right? So I'm born in 73, so I might be a bit older than most of you. So for all the golden girls and boys out there, I hope that you can find some kind of like call it a reference to kind of like your own experience in your own life and how you got here. And for the millennials, the takeaway could be that your parents or even your grandparents aren't that boring after all. So again, I was born in '73, and one of my first memories, my first kind of like defining moments in my life, was this one. At this moment, I knew I was going to be a roller skater, and I was going to marry Linda Blair. So then a few years later, I saw this earlier movie with Linda Blair, and I thought, might be not such a good idea. So this was my first kind of like acquaintance with disruption, with a disruptive moment in my life. Fast forward a little bit, early '80s. This was the next defining moment in my life, and this is where I knew I was going to be an artist, and I'm going to disrupt, right? Um, Another defining moment, another like moment of disruption here. Then fast forward a little bit, I saw this movie and I thought, wow, man, this is so cool. This was my first kind of like acquaintance or like no touch with the metaverse, Tron. So I saw myself. I knew I was going to get in there one day, drive around cool motorbikes and throw around discs like that. So another defining moment. Fast forward a little bit more. I saw another movie, and this is when I knew I was going to be a skateboarder, and I was going to find Animal Chin, and I was going to solve the mystery. In the end, like all these things, if you talk about hip hop, if you talk about skateboarding, it's not only about the sport or like the thing that you do, but it's the culture around it. It's about the fashion, it's about the design, it's about like new languages, etc. So in a way, I thought I knew I was on the right direction, right? So fast forward a little bit more. When I saw this, I knew I was going to be a snurfer. So for the millennials out there, that's snowboarding. Okay. I was already skating. I was already kind of like in that kind of like counter culture, kind of like a wannabe. And this is also where I found out, like, well, this is just the coolest thing ever. Like you're out there in the mountains, you're skating on snow. But again, it was also a lot about culture. It was a lot about like design, fashion, and getting out there with your friends. It's a social thing as well. So then, fast forward a little bit more. When I saw this, I knew I was going to be an animator. I couldn't get enough of this. This was just like rewinding, taping these things on VHS tapes, which I will come back on later. And I knew I was going to be an animator for MTV and doing all these cool stuff, like just animating M's, which is also the first letter of my name. So then I fast forward a little bit more. I was already okay. I want to animate, and I was already looking at Tron. The 3D graphics were coming up, like early '90s. So the first kind of like touch with 3D graphics was this software called 3D Studio. A guy at my mom's business gave me a floppy disk. I had to like start it up on MS-DOS, and this is where I started animating and starting putting keyframes there. And that's where my voyage into kind of like 3D graphics and graphics started. So then we started going a bit more forward, because now I knew I had to go to art school, right? When I saw Rodin, I knew I was going to be a sculptor, because like when I see myself next to him, I said, okay, that makes sense, right? So I went to art school and started studying sculpture, and I already kind of like knew that my fascination with 3D graphics, etc., was my thing. So a little interlude. So I started doing my sculpting, but at the same time, me and two other classmates of mine were already kind of like going into the audiovisual departments, hijacking the computers, making little video edits. And we were invited to VJ for the International Film Festival in Rotterdam. This was like 96, I think, 96, 97. And back then, there were no laptops. We couldn't do things digitally. So from digital, we made little animations, put them on 320 by 240 resolution, because HD was not even existing. So we put those on VHS tapes. So for the younger people, VHS tapes are plastic boxes that you basically shove them in another like apparatus, which is a so-called video player, and you could like play your videos. So you had, when you will want to mix videos, then you had to have like 2 video players or 3 or 4. And in order to mix those, you had to have another device called a video mixer. So we went into clubs with bags full of VHS tapes, 4 video recorders, this Panasonic video mixer, and we became quite strong. And we were kind of like on the forefront of, we thought of like, you know, the new way of art, the new art, video art, VJing. So, and we had a good party at the same time. A little bit later on, we found this software. We had our first laptop, and this is where we started. Finally, the digital age came to fruition for us. We found this software called Motion Dive Tokyo. We had to crack the software, put it on the laptop. The whole interface was in Japanese, so we learned some Japanese, we think, and we started mixing with this software. We go fast forward a little bit more. So we were just obsessed with, like, you know, video. We were obsessed with monsters. We were obsessed with space girls. We were obsessed with kung fu, and we were still obsessed with 3D. You know, so we saw the road ahead. This is our thing, and we're going to do this, and this is the future. You know, um, so the end of my study, I graduated with a VRML project, because after 3D Studio Max came out, and there was this funny thing that you could export VRML from there. And I thought, oh, what's that about? You know, didn't even heard of it. So you could export your 3D environments or your 3D objects to a format that you could play back in your browser, Netscape, in this case. That was like all before Chrome and Safari, etc. So for all the old guys and girls there, or the golden girls and golden boys, Cosmo Player was kind of like this plugin where you could like maneuver through 3D spaces. And this was for me, you know, the first metaverse that I entered. So I created this experience with 3D audio where you could maneuver through like a grotto with soundscapes everywhere. So this is where I graduated. And after graduation, I started working for V2 Lab, the lab for unstable media, which is a great name. I still haven't heard anything better than that. And I worked as a 3D designer on a number of interactive installations, which also touched a lot upon real-time 3D graphics. And again, like, you know, the metaverse. After V2 or during V2, these projects also were featured in Dev Festival in Rotterdam, Ars Electronica in Linz, Austria. Then I had a little stint at Tech 004 in The Hague, a similar institution for new media arts, the gray area between technology and arts, right? And this is also where we got in touch with artists like Joshua Davis and Casey Reese. Joshua Davis did just this amazing generative art made in Flash back then. You can all Google these things. This is old school stuff. And Casey Reese was a master in processing. He actually created the software where also through coding, you could kind of like create and generate graphics. So for me, this was kind of like, oh, new doors are opening, beautiful stuff. And as you see, this is timeless, you know. So I also started myself learning how to code. I started playing around with processing, Max MSP, creating my own little VJ tools. And V2 and Tech were like great platforms, kind of like to explore more and getting more. Okay, what is about and where are we going here with this technology, and how does it, you know, connect to my art, my idea about art. So in Tech, I had my own exhibition, or part of a larger exhibition, one of the first augmented reality exhibitions in The Hague, at least, and I dare to say like Netherlands. We created this project using Flash, and they had like this plugin for Flash, and we created a sort of a social media platform in Flash, where you stood next to another person. We had sensors that could track your motion, and through cameras you can see yourself superimposed on all the things that are on your social media. It was pre-Facebook. This was Hives, they called it, and we could kind of like use their SDK to extract your favorite books and your friends. So the person next to you could see who are your friends, what are your favorite books, and it makes connections. So that was 2004, and my first endeavor in augmented reality. Next slide. So fast forward a little bit. 2010, I moved to Barcelona. Fell in love with a Catalan girl. Moved there. I had like some cool projects I could work on immediately. And also around that time, 2010, 2011, Fuforia came out. So my interest was reinvigorated through Fuforia and also by the city of Barcelona itself. So back then, the technology, augmented reality, was still very kind of like basic and was only based on image markers, right? So here you can see like one of those image markers of Fuforia where they can like see irregular patterns, lock onto that, and then you can place 3D content on top of it. So walking through Barcelona, there's all these doors with graffiti, stickers, and street art, urban art, which was, of course, also sort of my background. And then I thought, hey, these are the perfect image markers. They're irregular. And, I started photographing all these doors and jotting down the GPS coordinates because I wanted to make a sort of a persistent citywide augmented reality experience. All worked like a charm. But after like a week, 2 weeks, you come back to the door to test some new things. And then new stickers are there, new graffiti. So it didn't work anymore, right? But Barcelona, being a city with a lot of cultural heritage and old Roman walls, I thought like, hey, these Roman walls, they have also like this irregular patterns. So why don't I use that for image markers, right? Because these walls were there for hundreds of years and will still be there for hundreds of years. So I started photographing like parts of walls, jotting down the GPS coordinates. And around that time, I was also getting deeper into Unity, trying or teaching myself to code, playing around with Fuforia, and starting to build up my very first version of my citywide augmented reality platform, which was always kind of like a side project, right? So everything worked nicely, but it was always something that I kept for myself. Like I needed to be perfect before I started showing it to the world. So these are some tests that I started doing. This is all image markers. So I went to a wall, with your phone, it locks onto the wall, boom, that you got some content. And I started downloading 3D objects from the internet, which I also did in art school, just repurposing things that you find and give them like a new life in a way. So then the name came up because it's about art, it's about street art, but it's also about like keeping cultural heritage clean and alive, without destroying it, without like putting graffiti, going with a spray can to an old Roman wall and destroy it. So the name was Non-Destructive Urban Interventions from then on. So after 3-4 years Barcelona, I moved to Portugal for a little stint, 2.5 years, and I worked for a small company called Bayar, which was specialized in utilizing augmented reality in interactive installations for museums and for galleries. So we did a number of projects, very interesting stuff, and I just learned so much about what augmented reality was and could be, like, more than, just like the little gimmick, okay, the image marker, and you see little dinosaur or whatever. So we made like 3D versions of famous paintings. We created this interactive wall where we had like cameras and we had like a book with image markers on the pages. And when you flip the pages, it will activate animations and videos onto the pages of the book. We created for a museum this sort of augmented reality setup where we had a tent for an old, like, Stone Age tent with tools. And when you looked through the screen, you could see kind of like the people going in and out. You could like tap on tools and learn more about the tools. And in Ardeolos was a small town in the center of Portugal. We had like a city or the town square where we made like 4 different versions of 4 different kind of like time epocas. No? So people could kind of like go back in time, look into the square, then look through the screen and see the square like 50 years ago, 200 years ago, 1,000 years ago. And again, like these are just super interesting new ways of kind of like how to use augmented reality in new and novel ways. Then I went back to Barcelona, and now we are really fast forwarding 2.5 years ago, and we started Lucid Lab. We are an experiential design company, agency. And since then, we did still a lot of motion graphic work. We did some motion or some projection mapping. And we did quite some augmented reality projects, for mostly for culture. So that is kind of our focus as well, the cultural sector. So we are immersive designers, and we are a Lucid Lab. This slide is a little bit about the tools. So after all the old tools, Flash and the old Cosmo Player, 3D Studio, these are the tools that we are now using for our augmented reality productions. So for 3D modeling environments, we use Cinema 4D. We also use ZBrush for more organic and for more like sculptural 3D creation. Unity is our go-to platform at the moment. And last but not least is Resight. We all know the SDKs nowadays, like Niantic Lightship, after the whole Pokemon thing. These are like the big kahunas out there. But Resight is a startup who created an SDK for where you can use augmented reality in a persistent multi-user way and out of the box. So you don't have to scan a room, save the room into a library, publish it, etc. You're basically, the first time you're kind of looking around, it scans in the background, but you can start placing objects immediately. And the next time when someone else comes with the same app, it can see the same content. When you're manipulating 3D objects, for example, everybody can see it updated. So it's a true persistent multi-user augmented reality SDK, which we have now a really good relationship with, because 2 years ago I entered a little contest from Resight, and I won the prize for the most creative idea with my old disruptive non-destructive urban interventions project using their SDK. So before I was fooling around with Vuforia, but the technology now finally is true spatial recognition. So we went from image markers. In between, we had something like horizontal and vertical plane detection, but it was still not persistent, because you have a wall here that is the same as the wall there. But now we are really kind of getting into the realm of true persistent, true site-specific augmented reality experiences. So this is right now our toolbox, and this is where we are now developing in-house a project called City Drops. So it all started with my own little personal project. I got some attention with it, and also by Vuforia, by the way, because I also entered the contest there, and I won a little prize there. So, and then I knew I was on the right track, right? The next slide. So we did some in-house projects, and we also did a sculpture route throughout Barcelona, which we also tried out in Paris. We just placed some objects. Again, these objects were activated when you were close. So this was not true persistent yet, but we were getting there. We were just hacking the system and shoestringing it. So this was kind of our first art project, so to speak. So this is our very first Resight project with Resight in the background, where we placed, again, sculptures with kind of background informations in spots throughout Barcelona. I will show you some videos in the end, some proofs of concepts, because these were still the prototypes and the early iterations of where we are now. Our early beta. Another really cool feature of our project, and also what is made possible by Resight, is we create libraries of objects. So imagine that kids can come to a square and they all can build a game level together, right? So one kid can place like some trees, the other kids can like grab the trees and move them around, the other kids can see them updating. So it's really a collaborative tool, you know? Because the problem so far with augmented reality is it's quite an individual and static and experience, and on top of that, it's a lot of things are quite gimmicky. So I think that now the doors are opening to this multi-user functionality. Really opens door to much more social interaction and learning together and building together, right? um, so we all made like this little building blocks, modules, if you will, within City Drops. So one of them is a 3D slideshow. You know, you can upload like 10 3D models. You have to like type in some information about it, and you can place those like in your museum or in whatever venue. One of the modules is also a video player. Of course, there's um, plenty of augmented reality solutions nowadays that you can place video, you can place audio. Everybody's like selling it, and we are selling the same thing. But the cool thing is that we can, as soon as the video is, we can, as a end user, react on it. Because also one of the features is for the explorer, we call it. We can come up to an AR object and we can like leave our comments through a speech to text feature. We can also kind of like add likes. Another feature is the wallet functionality. Wallet is a bit ambiguous because a wallet is basically, could be an inventory, is a wallet. It's basically you grab something and you put something in your wallet or in your inventory. So while we are talking about art, so at this moment, for example, we can make scavenger hunts for kids. Kids can find pieces of a postmodern painting, and together with the whole class, they can get all the elements together, and together they can reconstruct this postmodern painting. Learn more about like geometry and what is postmodernism now anyway. On the other hand, these things can be used for brands. We can place vouchers throughout the city on strategic positions or locations. So you can pick up a voucher, you can walk to the store, and you can get like a discount on a bottle of beverage, or like on cool shoes or whatever. So while we are creating this thing with a lot of like culture in the back of our minds, we are creators, we are artists in the end. And it also opens up possibilities for brands and for commerce, right? So this is where kind of like our elevator pitch is. Like City Drops is a persistent augmented reality platform that aims to bring together commerce, culture, and the community on equal terms. And that is really important for us, because we are consumers. We are the products of a Google and of all the big guys. But our aim and our kind of like manifesto, if you will, is really bringing people together and having the people have a say about the products that they encounter or the information that they are consuming. So it should be interactive and not reactive, right? Next slide. So another little building block, once again, is the connection to real-time databases. This one is a little prototype we made with a database of all the cities of the world with the populations. So you can rotate around the sphere, you can like learn about geometry, but you can also be amazed how many cities in China actually have more than 1 million inhabitants. Okay. And then finally, there was another really cool project we're doing with some people that I know from way back. Anti-Lounge is a record label from the Netherlands. And we are at this moment creating with some of their artists from their label some audio reactive objects that we can place throughout a venue. So this could be a festival, music festival, or just a venue where you could basically listen to music and using the wallet, the other building block, add them to your playlist. So the wallet becomes the playlist. Inventory, playlist, wallet. It's all kind of like the same thing, different name. So now we are today here at the Global XR Summit, and I'm happy to say that our pilot project, so all these building blocks that we've been building over the last 2 years for smaller projects here, smaller projects there, are finally finding its purpose in our pilot project for Kunstsilo, which is a huge museum in Kristiansand, Norway, where we are now developing an AR experience for their opening exhibition, because they're not open yet. They're now building. We just had like discovery sessions with them, a workshop to find out what the pain points are, really exploring what augmented reality can be more than just this one layer, this one static layer over an artwork. Or so it is an amazing project, an amazing opportunity that we have right now, and our pilot project. And at the same time, perfect, because we are not dependent on, at this moment, on external investments, right? We are all bootstrapping and shoestringing it. And I know that this is kind of a thing right now, especially because the investments, sort of like, the investment climate, if you will, is not the best. It's not like 5 years ago or 10 years ago, where all the investors in Silicon Valley is just like throwing millions to you, and it keeps it like closer to ourselves. There is going to be a moment where we want to scale fast, but I think that now is the perfect moment to kind of like take it one step further, make really a user case for a larger project for a larger audience, and from there we're going to branch out and see where it brings us. So that was it for the slides, but I'm going to show you some videos. I hope I'm going to do it right now. If not, you have to share, tell me. Share the screen, share a window. Okay, so this particular video is Arnau Gallery. This is also one of the projects that we did over the last 2 years at Lucid Lab. And Arnau Gallery is actually a open air gallery, a large mural on Parallel here in Barcelona, where every 2 months they invite. No, the video is not showing yet, but I'm going to give you the little intro first. So open air, every 2 months, they're inviting new artists to make a mural, always like a couple of two artists, right? So I had to talk with Antoine from Barcelona Street Art, and I said, wouldn't it be cool to use augmented reality if you come to the wall, that you can go back in time and see all the artworks that have been done before? It's a way of kind of like maintaining or saving the cultural heritage. So I hope it's playing. So, present slides. I think I lost the slide now. There we are. So if you can still hear me, can everybody still hear me? Diana, can you tell me if you can hear me? I'm just going to, I've got some other videos set up here. I showed you some stills there. But let me present the next video. Share screen window. Oops. Proof of concept number 1. I don't know if you heard the audio. Sorry. Now I'm going to get all weird. I think the videos are not really working, are they? I'm just going to try, because we're now in 38 minutes. I'm just going to try, and then we have like 2 minutes left for some chit chat. Just a second. Window concept 2 share. So if you can hear me, if not, I will repeat later. Here you will see the process of like scanning the space and placing kind of like content over on top of objects or artifacts, right? So this was a little test we did in the exhibition of the Aviation Museum here in Barcelona. I'm going to stop sharing again because I don't think, I'm not sure if the video works. Did the video work? This was my presentation. Let's have a chit chat.
Awesome. Can you see me yet?
Yeah, now I can see you.
Yeah, amazing. I am assuming you can hear me. That's
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. We enjoyed so much your presentation. It was incredible. Thank you for sharing all of that. Yeah, at the end, the proof of concept number 1 and 2, we probably miss a little bit of the graphics, but we can continue sharing these materials maybe in maybe Discord, a little bit of that. That would be amazing if somebody wants to check it out. So that's how we can solve it. Thank you so much. I do have a couple of questions for you if you have a couple of minutes. That's okay. A little bit. Yeah, okay. So, okay, first of all, I want to say it was super interesting to see the urban art from Barcelona, how well you connected as an artist with that city, the Roman buildings, the walls, all the work that you did, and all your trajectory. That was fascinating to see all that journey. So thank you for sharing that. So at some point, it seems you came up with this non-destructive urban intervention. You got an award for that. That's all exciting. And at the moment, you are building an incredible AR experience for a historical building or for a museum.
Yeah.
So, with all of this trajectory, and because you have seen so many trends or evolution of the technologies as an artist, I wonder what challenges do you foresee upcoming, knowing that you are actually hands on working with these tools, knowing how they are performing, what are the constraints. So
Mm.
the question is, what do you foresee that are the upcoming challenges at using these technologies, particularly augmented reality?
Yeah, I think content is the key, right? Because as I said, like augmented reality is so far a lot like a gimmick. It's kind of like you scan something, you see a little dinosaur, and maybe you click to the website. That's it. But to really get a multi-layered kind of like contextual information and interaction between you and a location, or you and a piece of art, to really create good content and good storytelling, I think that's the key. And as long as it's that, this is why I find it interesting that people from different walks of life, hence kind of like, my background story, very self-indulgence, but at the same time, I find it interesting to have like people from a technical background going into storytelling, people going, as an artist going into the technology. Because if you have like multifaceted, like interpretations, or people working with the medium, then I think you get a much richer kind of like, body of content, if you will. So I
Mhm.
think content is key, and I think that's there should be a lot more emphasis like on storytelling than it's just like the technology. Like not technology for technology's sake, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah, I can definitely see how when you were speaking about the capabilities of having multiplayer type of
Mm.
abilities, the educational examples that you showed there were very, very great. I think that many of us resonate with those examples because we can see a world where, let's say that I am in South America or in North America, and I can communicate with someone in Europe through one
Mm.
of these um, experiences. And I think that is what makes the multi-layer as well that you are mentioning. So in terms of the capabilities for getting to that point, are we yet there, or there are things that we are missing? What is your experience working with the latest tools? As you mentioned, you're working with amazing tools right now. How is the technology
Yeah,
at that point right now?
yeah, amazingly good actually. Especially like Resight, I really want to kind of like pitch Resight here. Like these guys are amazing. They made an amazing tool. And I even, because I was playing around with their SDK, but for a first session, for example, you need to have the latest kind of like devices, or at least with LiDAR, which is only like the previous iPhone, and now the newest Samsungs come with LiDAR. So the kind of like the fear was like, okay, maybe it's just possible with like the latest expensive like iPhones. But I had my old iPhone 10, and I started testing with my iPhone 10. And okay, the first session you have to do with your LiDAR enabled device, but then even my iPhone 10, plop, was just out of the box. You open up the app and it's there. So I think it was even beyond expectations. Is also for the developers at Resight. Is does it work with the iPhone 10? And I say, yeah, well, if you do your first session with the LiDAR, because I think they're making a very smart sort of combination between LiDAR, photogrammetry, so comparing kind of like one frame to the next, and GPS coordinates, basically. I think that's under the hood. That is kind of like um, that they compare these three kind of like things and then lock you onto something. So the iPhone 10 doesn't have the LiDAR, but does have GPS and does have a camera, so you can do like the photogrammetry part and the GPS part. So it was amazingly kind of like, hey, we are already here. It's just now the adaptation. People have to be open for it. And what I find interesting, for example, about the Vision Pro, I don't find the device that interesting. Yeah, of course, it's beautiful. They got all the bells and whistles and they put all the technology in there. But it's going to be a $3,000 like device. It's going to be only available next year. But what is interesting, it's Apple. So the whole world is like hearing, hey, AR or mixed reality, right? So now people are starting to get interested in it. So not because of the device itself, but because Apple comes out with it now.
Yeah.
So I think that there's super exciting times at this moment because of those things.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I think the same about this big company coming up with this type of product. It's also helping in that transition that we hope that people start to discover more of the capabilities of these technologies. That's great. Thank you so much. So, if anybody wants to connect with you, get in contact for projects, etc., how they can reach out or find you?
Yeah, I can put my email on the Discord server. I can leave my email here. I can show you the
Mhm.
website. There's no text here. What do you
I can place your email here if
the
you
sorry,
want.
the what?
I can place your email or
Ah,
website here if you
yeah.
like.
Oh,
What
wait,
what
I'll type it here in the chat.
Yeah, okay, thank you. That's better so that I can be more precise.
Yes. So that,
Thank you.
well, websites, no, obviously is
Is
lucidlab.com.
the yeah. Yes. Okay,
And
so
it's
I'm
lucid
gonna
with a Z because our medium is not paint, but it's light. And we are,
yes.
if you speak Spanish, so that's our medium. Lucid lab
Lucid Lab.
in
Okay,
our
yes.
channel.
Okay. Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Mike. It was absolutely amazing. We learned so much from your journey and trajectory. And I feel that it's a great opportunity to continue following each other and growing each other. So you can also follow Mike on LinkedIn. You can find him. And yeah, we can get updated with all the projects that Lucy Lab is creating. Thank you so much, Mike. And
Thank you, Diana.
see you soon. Bye for
Ciao.
now.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Ciao.